Okay, so you're going to have 3 different ways you're going to have to solve for your test. You're going to have to be able to graph, to substitute, and eliminate. So graphing, the key to graphing is that when we look at it, we need to understand y equals mx plus b, and we don't actually have that with any of these equations. Okay, so I'm going to do algebra to turn it into y equals. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep the y unit. So negative 2y stays. I'm going to have to move that x unit to the other side. Yeah. I would have handed it. Okay, so I moved the x unit over, and I'm going to move this number over as well. Okay, so trying to get y alone. Keep y, move the other stuff as needed. And now we're going to divide. And remember, when you divide, everything, always. So y equals, and then this has 2 negatives, so I'm just going to make it positive. Okay, I'm actually going to also just keep going with my algebra stuff here. So the other equation, I'm also going to have to work with that a little bit first. So keep the y stuff, so just y. Move the x, it has to flip to the other side, so now it's negative x. And then the number stays negative 8, right? Because it didn't have to move sides at all. Okay, now you're ready to graph. So negative 3 is a y-intercept. Okay, please remember which one's your y-axis. And then we should be moving up 3, right 2. And I'm going to do it a couple times, actually. We could even go backwards a little bit, too. We could do a down 3, left 2. Okay, so the other line will be a negative 8 on the y-axis. And then the slope is negative 1, so you're going to have to, negative 1 as a number is like that. So you're going to be going down 1, right 1 on the staircase. So down 1, right 1. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to back up that staircase. And then I'm looking for the intersection point. Okay, so your solution is you're going to have to actually list that coordinate for me. So what comma what is your answer? Negative 2, negative 6, I think, okay? Negative 2, negative 6. So you know if you're right or not because you can check your answer. You can go back. You can just plug those numbers into your calculator. You could be 3 times negative 2, subtract 2 times negative 6 minus 6 equals, you can do that all in your calculator and it should be 0. Okay, I'm not going to do that, but on your test, when you go back and double check everything, do that. Okay, the next one, y equals x plus 3, that's actually ready to go. So 3 is the y-intercept. And then the slope is 1. So 1 over 1. So I would be going on a staircase, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. So I know when we graphed on last unit, I said I just need 2 points to graph. Well, that's true. But on this, because you're trying to find an intersection somewhere, it doesn't hurt to do a few extras, like even backwards too. Okay, what are you thinking when you see something like this? Special. When there's only one of the variables, so there's no y in this. So either that there's no x or no y, it's a special one. So special, is it going to go straight up and down, or is it going to go flat? Up and down. It's going to be up and down. It's a vertical. So at -2. Okay, so you're going to have to remember that. I actually do put one on the test, whether it be an x line up and down or y flat. And there's your coordinate. So -2, comma, did you pick 1? Okay, so very similar to what you can expect on your test. You're going to have to do a little bit of algebraic work to graph some lines. Okay, you'll probably see one special line somewhere. Substitution. Okay, so when I substitute, I need something isolated. Do you have anything isolated here? No. Which is the easiest to isolate? This x, this y, this x, this y. Can you see one of them that would be the easiest? The first y. Can you get that y alone? Okay, so if you were to get it alone, the 2x would have had to move over. It could have looked like this or like this. Doesn't matter. Whatever you had written, that's fine. Okay, so now let's pretend I took this one. If you did this, keep going. I'm going to put that and substitute it for that y, right? That's the substitution part. So 4x minus 3 times the substitution . Okay, algebra says we should distribute stuff. So can you work that out? Distribute, collect, move, divide, all that algebra stuff. Okay, anybody got me a match with a 5? Okay, thank you. A thumbs up or a head nod. So now, when you're done that, remember you're going to have to go figure out the y now. So go back. So y equals 13 subtract 2 of those x's. Okay, so you can't forget, here's the thing with substitution. For substitution to work, you need something alone to begin with. So sometimes if there isn't, you make that alone before you move on. Okay, I'm just going to check my answer on one of them. You have to check on both. Okay, so here's me checking my answer to this equation that says 4x minus 3y. So I typed that in. And when I click enter, it should give me 11. And it did. Okay, so then I know that that works. And then I would do the same thing over here. 2x plus the y. And when I enter this equation, it should say 13. And it did. So we are right. Okay, you know if you're right on the test. Solve by substitution again. So is there anything alone? No, I don't have an alone thing, so I can't do substitution. So we have to make the alone by ourselves. Which item are you getting alone? I would say that first y is the easiest thing to get alone. So move the x, so it should read plus 3x on the other side. So whatever, didn't matter how you wrote it, this or that way. Okay, so now you take your y and replace it into that one. So negative 2x, subtract 4, bracket, replace. Okay, and then I'm going to give you your minute to figure that one out by yourself. Did anybody finish it and end up as a match? Okay, just go slow and steady. Distribute, collect, move, divide. Okay, there's going to be probably negatives somewhere on your test, so make sure you're working with your negatives properly, okay? Okay, so the next method was elimination. So that's where you stack and make sure that they're matched up with columns. So let's look at these x's. Those aren't the same, the y's, those aren't the same. You got to get something to have the same amount. So what do you want to do? Do you want to make x's the same, or would you like to make y's the same? Y's, And that's a good pick because I only have to times this one to match it to 6. If you picked the x's, it would work. It's just that you would have to times this and times this, right? So I'm going to times this by 3. That's the goal. Okay, so give me that line tripled. Okay, always, always remember when you're doing this, do it to everything. Okay, then the other line comes under it. So set up your matches, and then you should be asking yourself when they're stacked, should I add or subtract? Subtract. So if they are the same, which they are the same exact thing, we would subtract. So 9 minus 2 is 7x. 6 minus 6 is gone. 21. So x equals 3. And on these, I didn't try to trick you on your test with decimal numbers. I'm trying to get them all to be nice integer numbers. So probably if you are hitting a decimal on these ones, you did something wrong. Okay, now we have to take that and plug in. So you pick where you want to plug it into, and to me these both look basically the same, so I'm just going to pick the first one. So 3 times x, which is 3, plus 2y equals 9. So 9 plus 2y equals 9. Okay, when you minus 9, you get 0. And again, over and over, you can go back and you can plug these into those equations and type them through your calculator. Did it work? Did it work? Okay, number 6. I have 2 problems in starting this. My first problem is that there's no matches. I don't have anything like 3 and 3, 5 and 5. So we're going to have to do some multiplying. So what kind of multiplying do you want to do?
Multiply the first one by 5 and the second one
By 5 and 2, and I think we're going to be setting up 10y's, both of them to have 10y's. You could also do this one by 5 and this one by 3, and then that creates both with 15x, right? So that doesn't matter. I just did my answer key yesterday, and I mapped out every possible scenario, so I have like 4 options on my answer key, so that was fun. Because you might pick one way and you might pick a different way, and it's always going to be the same no matter which way you pick. Okay, so I'm going to do this one by 5. So 15x minus 10y minus 10 equals 0. And then this one would be 10x minus 10y equals 10. Okay, what's my other problem right now? Yeah, these column things aren't lining up. Yeah.
You forgot to multiply the 10 by 2.
Thank you. See how easy that is? That's a very easy mistake to do. Thank you for catching me. Okay, so our other problem is our columns. So what am I going to do to fix that situation? What needs to move to get into the line? This one right here, right? Would need to move that way. So 15x minus 10y equals 10. There, that one looks better now. This is for sure on the test. I tell you to eliminate, and I don't put them in matching columns. So you would have to move something to make sure they're all lined up. So when you look at that, they are the same thing. So I should subtract. If they are the same as each other, you subtract them. So 15 minus 10 is 5x. This makes nothing. 10 subtract 20 is actually a negative. So there's one, and then you go back and plug it in. I'm going to pick this spot to plug it into. So 5 times replace x. You know what? I feel like that was a little bit of a harder problem, so I'm going to check my answer. Okay, so I'm going to go into this equation, 3 bracket negative 2 minus 2 bracket negative 4 minus 2. And when I hit equals, it should be a 0. Okay, that was good. 5 bracket negative 2 minus 5 negative 4. And when I hit equals, it should equal 10. Good. Boom, we got it right. Okay, you're your own answer key on your test. Okay, on your word problem section of your test, I think I put 5 word problems on there. Okay, so you're going to see a lot of different types. So probably something like this. The sum of 2 numbers is 30. So you should know the word sum, which means add. The difference of the 2 numbers is 6. So you should know the word difference means to subtract. Then you're probably going to pick elimination. So here we can actually do it the A's or the B's, depending on what you want to do. If you want to subtract, those would be gone. If you want to add, those would be gone. If I can pick add, I like add, but. So A plus A is 2A. Those are gone because they're not the same. They're opposite of each other. If I add them, they're gone. 36. So A is going to be 18. Maybe some of you can figure this out with mental math. 18 plus 12 would be 30. So do those numbers add to 30? Yep, okay. And then would those numbers subtract and be 6? Yep. So we did it. Okay. I sometimes get students who just figure it out whatever, somehow. I specifically say in the instructions you have to use these techniques. So you have to be developing equations. Okay, I have 59 dimes and nickels. So I need a math sentence with just that. You have 59 dimes and nickels. So what do you write? all of the dimes plus all of the nickels means you have 59. So now we got to do the money line. So the money from the dimes. How do you write the money with the dimes? The money of the dimes, the money from the dimes, plus the money from the nickels, okay, don't forget to write 0.05. Don't write 0.5 because that's 50 cents, right? So you need a 0 in there. Equals 3.90. Okay, if you love working with decimals, that's great. You can do that. You could times this by 0.10 and they all would match or whatever. I'm going to times this line by 100, aka moving the decimal 2 places. So move makes 10. Move makes 5. If I move, this is 390. Okay, you don't have to do that. You can 100%, you can work with changing this to a 0.1D, whatever you want. Okay, I'm going to, I could times by 10 to match, or I could times by 5 to match. If timesing by 10 is pretty simple, I can do that without my calculator, so I'm going to pick that. So 10D, 10N, and 5.9D. So we matched the dimes. So what do you need to do to get them out? Add or subtract. Subtract them. Gone. 5N equals 200. So we have 40 nickels. On your test, if you get a decimal answer, something went wrong, redo it. Okay, I'm not going to have 40.3 nickels, right? You can't have a decimal. This has got to be a whole number answer. Okay, so I'm going to plug it into that line, and we can probably do this with mental math. 40 plus how many more to get to 59? I would need 19 more to make 59. And you don't have to write it as a coordinate because it's not an XY. It's not a coordinate. It's representing something. Okay, so number 9. I'm going to get you to put a star beside this one. I feel like sometimes this is one of the harder ones on a test. So a certain amount of chemical solution in one jug, so we'll call it jug A, and it's 35% strong. So 35% of A is chemical. So this is how much chemical is in A. And then it's combined with another jug, so I'm going to use a B for the other jug. And in that jug, it's 40% strong. So added, the chemical in that one is 40% of B. How much chemical was in the end? So we can do this on the side here somewhere. This percent of the 10-liter jug at the end is chemical. So what would that be? 3.725. Okay, so that's what I was doing there. I was figuring out that's how much chemical. Now your other sentence has to be just fluid. So how much fluid, okay? So how much fluid is in A? Don't know, it's A. The fluid in A is A, plus the fluid from B equals how much fluid at the end? 10. Okay, you know what, we're going to work with decimals. Let's times this line by, what do you want to do, the 0.35 or by a 4? Just the 0.4, okay. So 0.4a plus 0.4b equals 4. So I'm going to subtract the lines. I'm going to subtract those two lines. So 0.35 minus 0.4 is a negative. So subtract, subtract gone, subtract. And then I got 5.5. And I'm going to put liters on the end of that. We're good? We're matching? No one's yelling at me, so. Okay. Now I'm going to go to the plug-in part. So I'm going to go into that line, and maybe again we could probably do this with mental math. 5.5 plus what gets me up to 10? So I would need 4.5 liters. Okay, so star that one. This is 100% chance this is on a test. So again, I'm doing the chemical from each and the total fluid from each. Okay, number 10, I would like you to put a star beside that one. Here's why. This line is the one that tricks people. You have twice as many students as you do adults. So how do you write that? So I'm going to give you two options. Okay, so which one of those options would match? You have twice as many students as your adults. You have twice as many students as your adults, okay? You know how you can check? Just put in some numbers. So for instance, if I put a 10 in this spot, then the students would be 20. If I put a 10 in that spot, the adults are 20. So which one tells me there's twice as many students as adults? The top one. Okay, that's the red flag. That's where people get stuck. And here's why. It's because twice as many students, then they think they have to put the 2 on the S. And you actually put the 2 on the other item. Okay, so red flag that. That is on your test somewhere, so make sure you can write that statement properly. Okay, so now each student ticket is $5. So $5 for a student ticket, $8 for an adult ticket, and you make $990. So I'm actually not picking elimination on this one. Which one would be better than elimination? Substitution. I'm going to take this and put it in to the S spot. That's what I'm going to do. So this should be a whole number answer. So again, on your test, if you get a decimal answer, you cannot have decimal adults or decimal students. So now how many students come if you double that number? 110 students would come. Okay, and the very last question, so we have 3 starred questions here to really focus in on our test. This one is also just probably one of the harder ones on the test. So a cyclist takes 4 hours making this trip and la-da-da. So we're going to just start by understanding that we have a formula to follow. Distance equals velocity times time. Okay, so here we go. A cyclist takes 4 hours, so that's my time, to make a trip that's 88 kilometers. So that's my distance. While biking into the wind. Okay, so this is where you have a bike speed and a wind speed. So your velocity is going to be a combination of your bike and the wind. Your velocity is going to be a combination of your bike and your wind. If you are going into the wind, what do you think? Does that speed you up or slow you down? Slows you down. So your velocity will get minused. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to distribute that out. So there's my first equation. Okay, so on this next one, 3 hours and 23 minutes. Do you understand minutes? Do you understand that this is not how you would represent that? It's not time. Okay? How do you do 23 minutes? Any suggestions to make it a time into hours? How do you turn minutes into hours? Probably something easy like 30 minutes. How many hours is that? Half. So what are you doing to get that? You are dividing by 60. So 23 divided by 60 is 0.383. So the time is 3.383 To make the return trip, well, how much distance are you going to do on the way back? Same. The distance didn't change. The trip there and the trip back are same distance. This time it says the wind is at our back. So what do we know about the velocity? We're going to be going faster with the wind. Okay, and then I'm going to just distribute that. Okay, I'm going to pick elimination, the way this is going. So we would be timesing this line by 3.383, and we're going to be timesing this one by 4 to get matches, right? So yeah, I got like some funny decimals going on now, but that's fine. So you're going to pick what you want to do. Would you like to add or subtract? And it doesn't matter, because if you subtract, those are gone. If you add, those are gone. So it's up to you what you do. I'm going to pick add. Okay, it was really hard for me to make these whole numbers. That's why you're getting such funny decimals. For me to get a whole number answer, I got 24 out of all that. So what, somebody's matching with all that work. Okay, this is B, which is the bike speed. So I would like you to put something on the end of that 24. It's the bike speed. So what kind of unit would you put at the end to say this is the speed unit? Kilometers per hour is the bike speed. Okay, so now we got to figure out the wind speed. Where's the best place to go? I'm going to say that's the best place to go. That looks the easiest math right there. So 88 equals 4 of the 24s minus 4 W's. Ask yourself when you're done, does your answer make sense? So we should not have negative speeds. That wouldn't make sense if we got to that. If you're getting like 1,000 kilometers per hour for your wind, that probably won't make sense unless you're in some kind of crazy storm. Okay, so make sure your answer makes sense. And again, you can check plugging in stuff.